We start with what has become a story as important as the election itself, and that is the vote. In Arizona, 2020 never ended. Attempts to undermine our vote have mushroomed into an industry. Elections officials say they're prepared for whatever might happen on Election Day and in the days and weeks afterward. Rachel Leingang of the Arizona Agenda has been tracking all the latest developments. Welcome back to Square Off.
Good to be here.
And we all know this doesn't end on November 8th. Let's take a step back. Was 2020, the insurrection on January 6th, the so-called audit here in Arizona, was that just a dry run for the election deniers?
It certainly was an attempt to sow doubt that will continue in this election, likely in 2024. The candidates this year have structured their whole campaigns on this. So, I mean, what we saw then, I think, is just a signal of what more could come.
And that's what elections officials here in Maricopa County are looking at. They're concerned about the potential for long lines at vote centers on Election Day. What's the reason for those concerns?
So with all of the doubt sown in elections, a lot of that has been on mail-in ballots, on drop boxes. So a lot of Republican voters are changing the way they've been voting for decades and going in person. So they are expecting a lot of people to show up, but they do say that lines are not abnormal here. They have vote centers, so you can go anywhere, and so they think they should be able to handle it.
And one of the lessons learned from 2020 by elections officials is to set expectations. Let people know what they think is going to happen and how they hope people will react to that. But here's the concern, Here's the concern is that people will see long lines. Some people, like the deniers, and say, well, look at that. There are problems, big problems.
There's nothing that election officials can do to prevent these conspiracies from those quarters at this point, because it's a whole, it's a tactic. And that tactic works for their base. I don't think it works for everyone, but that attempt to sow doubt in how elections happen, it's already been happening here for years. In the lead up to this week, there's been, Kelly Ward saying things aren't going well. I mean, there are no indications that things aren't, but.
And that's my question. Are there other things in the works for Election Day? Because it does seem to me, listening to the language of Kelly Ward and Kari Lake, there is an attempt to get lots of people to show up on Election Day. And not just because mail-in ballots are bad, so-called bad.
I'm not sure what we'll see on Election Day or after, as the count begins. I mean, I think the sorts of things we saw at the tabulation center in 2020, we could see those again, depending on how long this count takes.
Large groups of protesters, Alex Jones coming in to lead protests, the QAnon shaman there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole, it's a group of people that have formed their identities now on this,
So let's talk about what comes next after Election Day and the ballot count. How long could that count take?
Definitely a week or more. The late earlies tend to take a longer time to verify and count. All of these races look to be very close. That's the reason it's going to be something we're all watching every day for the next week or two.
And late earlies, the early ballots dropped off on Election Day. You don't want to do that because they will not be in the first batch of ballots counted at 8 p.m. when we get the first returns. Talk about what comes a little later. There's a new law in effect triggering automatic recounts. How long could that prolong the time until we know the final results?
End of the year, unfortunately.
End of the year.
I mean, it just depends on how many recounts there are. So what changed is our barrier for a recount used to be 0.1% or 200 votes. So it was really, really rare to see a recount. It's now 0.5%, which for a statewide race would probably be 15,000 votes. So a lot of these races could be recounted. In 2020, the number in Maricopa County would have been 5 races that needed to be recounted. So those take a lot of time. The machines have to be, retested, retabulated. There needs to be another hand count audit afterward. It just takes a long time.
And one of those races that would have been subject to a recount was the presidential race.
Yes, could you imagine? Could you imagine how that would have gone?
Yeah, my goodness. Voter intimidation has become a feature, not a bug, of our vote. Last week, a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order against one of the groups that was encouraging people to go out to ballot boxes, drop boxes, watch them, take pictures. A couple people showed up in military-style garb. What did the judge's order do?
So the judge was first asked to stop Dropbox watching all across the board and said, no, that infringes on people's rights too much. So the order that he did sign is more limited, but it takes aim at those sorts of more intimidating things. If you have a gun, if you're wearing tactical gear, you need to be 250 feet away. The groups that are doing this, they're not allowed to post your photo online or video and imply that you've committed a crime. They had to post some things that said it's not illegal to carry more than one ballot. It had various measures there designed to really hinder what they were trying to do.
Now, we're not lawyers here, but this seems to me like it's groundbreaking in a way, and I do wonder about the First Amendment implications.
I think as the case moves forward, because this is just a temporary restraining order, this is all happening right now, I think there are a lot of layered things here that the courts will need to figure out. This level of Dropbox watching is a totally new thing this year, and definitely is intimidating to some people, as the court cases had witnesses who said they were intimidated in this process. That is illegal as well. So,
all right, great insight, Rachel. Got to end it there. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.